In this tutorial, we're going to start covering the documentation of the plans. I'll start with the plans first. I'll then move on to the sections and do the elevations last. So just a recap from my past tutorial, we've got a STP coming together. We've got some elevations that we'll have to add some additional information to these. I've got my floor plan set up quite neatly, and I've just named the floor plans as well. I've just also given them a label, a title on the sheet. I've given both of those. Okay, so the floor plans are ready to go. So all that we're going to do now is going to go to our floor plan, our floor plans, and we're going to start adding information. I'll refine some of the information, but yeah, we've got a roller shutter door. My apologies, we've got a stacking door that will stack to the side here, so we'll need to provide some detail lines. You can build families that work with this, but if you know certain practices, you know that you get 5 stacks, so it depends. If you've got a standard stack that you use generally, especially more of a commercial type environment, you will go and create standard ones that you use all the time. But in this instance, we're going to draft it so that you can start learning how to draft. Okay, so the first thing I do is I start adding a series of dimensions. First protocol, dimensions. Okay, so the annotate tab. For this, I'm going to stick to using my 2mm diagonals because that's been set up quite nicely, and for the level of detail that we need to provide, this is the way to go. Okay, so we've got a gate. We might just have to put a sliding arrow, things like that. But let's start with some dimensions. So just as a rule of thumb, sorry, that wasn't going to work. Just one thing to bear in mind when dimensioning. This is a site boundary line in the distance. Okay, that site boundary line, I am going to leave it there because it's quite an important line. Okay, because it signifies the boundary of our earth. Now, if two lines are not parallel, Revit won't be able to dimension. There is techniques to do that, and that's something that we can discuss a bit later on. You might have to use the linear command, but you can also tab. So if you click this part of the wall and then you tab until you get a point, it will annotate the point. So just remember, just be very careful what you're selecting, and always try and dimension to a grid line. Okay, so a grid line is a reference that you will share with an engineer. So if you dimension to the grid lines, it's a good place to start, because a lot of the grid lines the engineer will set out on site using GIS data. They get set out very accurately. So if you use grid lines to reference from, it's a good starting point. Okay, so I'm just going to start with a dimension, and then I'm going to use this edit witness line. So I'm going to go and add a whole series of dimensions. I know this is a structural column here. I don't think it's that relevant to our project, but I'll just start adding some information there. We've got a distance here that we need to capture, so let's have a look at that. Maybe let's start here. Okay, when walls are not parallel, it won't allow you to dimension. So here we're just going to go and capture all the running dimensions we can. Just remember that line that you're seeing there is the filled earth, or it's part of the topography. We'll switch that off later because we're going to start using some better drafting and filled regions to get that and document that. Okay, just carry on aligning. So, and with dimensions, you want to work in levels. So trying to capture the finer detail, then work out. We'll explain that now. So maybe this dimension, I want to quickly add another, because this is part of the building. This is like a open area over here where people will, this is a driveway, for example. Okay, so that's enough information down there. And I'll start down here. As long as you can set out, so that line keeps getting in the way. So that's something that we must just be careful of. What we can do is you can select the category, and for the time being, I'm going to say isolate category. Just my apologies, I'm going to hide category for the time being. You'll notice the screen will go blue. So hide category, so you don't keep accidentally selecting it. I'm going to do so with my topography as well, just so that I can establish a lot of running dimensions. Okay, so let's just hide that as well, hide element. Okay, so it's just going to edit. Just select this guy, topography, hide element. There we go. Okay, now it's gonna flow a lot better. Okay, just remember, use your tab key to select faces, and when you start dimensioning, try and set your dimension line preference, so face, core, center, face, wall face, for example. So just see what works with the type of walls that you've established, but you'll get the hang of it quite quickly. And I'll just need this dimension over here. Technically this is a neighbor, so I'm not going to worry about that too much. Okay, so that's good. I can cover the lift shaft. You see I'm picking up the lift shaft, so keeping running dimensions. Okay, and I'll just get an overall. There's enough information here. Okay, so you can see that will work well. That works well. I'm going to add some running dimensions down here because we've got a column. So here we've got a column, so maybe we'll need to pick up those columns as well. Oops, I picked up a gate. Just tab. Remember, use the tab key quite a lot. Okay, just make sure that you're tabbing. Okay, tab, tab, go, and then you're going to create a running dimension. So we want the opening of the gate, for example. I'll pick up this line again. Don't be afraid to add a lot of additional dimensions. Okay, that's good. And then likewise here we can also do the same. Okay, so this is not going to require that amount of dimensions. Okay. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. What you can also do here, what I like to do, it's not a total requirement, I just find that it reads better. Once you start dragging these out, Revit will form a relationship with the neighboring a bit of text, and it'll help you lock on a line to those objects. Okay, that is a very odd dimension. I just want to see why it's a 330 wall. That's incorrect. Very, very strange. Okay, so in that case, I'd made these concrete walls because technically it was a structure. So let's just quickly address that. I'm just going to say match. That's fine, because technically this is part of the structure. Okay, and what's neat is that should have adjusted, which it didn't do, because I think I've dimensioned part of the lift. So the lift has an enclosure, it's got a symbol that works. So let me just do that quickly. Okay, actually, you know what, I'll leave it as is, because I'll explain why. Because there is quite a thick slab above. Technically that can just be a masonry wall, because we've got a lot of structure here and we've got a bit of structure there. It's not such a substantial span. For the time being, I'll leave it as it was. The only thing I need to adjust is I'll need to fix that to that side of the face. Okay, grab that. I'm wondering why it's a 280 wall. That shouldn't be. Okay, and let's just see why that's a 280 wall. Yeah, that's not correct. Okay, it was a cavity wall that we're going to use. Okay, right, so I'll just go back to a concrete wall in this instance. Okay, we'll just make it a 230. It's just an internal dividing wall, so yeah. Okay, we've got our lift shaft. That's fine, that's just a clearance zone, so I just wanted to make sure that the lift fitted in correctly, and you can see the dimensions adjusted automatically. Okay, so I'm just going to go around and fix all of this up, and then I'll be back. Okay, so what I've done, I've got to add some additional dimensions. Just make sure that you don't host dimensions in a wall, okay, because they get unreadable. So what you try and do is offset them a bit. There are some tricks that you can do to make this work better, but as far as this will go, this will suffice for the time being. Okay, I can see there's some pretty strange dimensions here, but that's fine. I mean, this is still early days. Okay, so this is starting to look good. Everything looks like it's in the center of the wall. Okay, so this will work. This will work for the time being. Okay, alright, so once we've done our dimensioning, the next thing we need to consider is start adding some drafting items. Okay, so this is just an open garage, but here we need to provide a drafted door opening. Okay, so how do we do that? Alright, so how a typical stacking door does, you can see we've got these arrows that explain that the doors stack in this direction. I'll leave that information there. But what I am going to do is I'm going to show how the doors stack and it's telling me that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 panels. Okay. Okay, so we've got 6 panels. So now what I need to do is I need to draft some information. So annotate. Just remember this drafting that we're going to do here won't be reflected on the basement plan. It will only be on this plan that's on our sheet. But that's okay because the other plans are design sheet and we know that there's a door there. Okay. So we're going to go to detail line, so an annotation tab, detail line. Okay, so we've got to draft the door. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get our detail line, and you'll see that if you're using the Form C template, we're going to have a lot of line work available to us already. Okay, so in this instance, I'm just going to use the door openings. You can use it for door swings and everything else. I'm just going to draw a center line down the door because a lot of these doors will have a track in which the door will run, so that's my first option. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the door. I'm going to press 3 now, and I'm going to go to the doors layer. So what I need to do is I need to create a series of rectangles. But what's neat is if you see when you click on this, it's giving me the exact size of the door. Okay, so I can use this symbol now to gauge, and you see each door will have its own symbol. Okay, so we can go and work out the size of the door very, very easily. Okay, so we know we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 openings. Okay, so typically if we tab over here, you'll be able to find the centers of these doors. Okay, so there's a center line over here. There's a center line over here. Okay, so that's all we need to do is we can use this door, but this is purely symbology. Okay, so I'm going to create a rectangle. I can create it anywhere. Okay, for now I'm just going to stick to 900. That's okay for now, and I'm going to use the line tool. So I've got a mark there, and I have a center line over here. There's the other door there. So I've got a panel there, and I've got a panel there. So undo my mistake, unline. So that's to there. You don't want to change that, and you want to find this one, align that tab to there. Okay, so that's a panel. Then I could just simply use my quick dimensions, 30. Okay, so that's a door panel. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this object and this bit of line work, and I'm going to make it a group. Okay, I'm going to just call this stacking door G for ground. Just be strategic in the way you name these. Now I can go to edit group. Okay, now this will help me. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to move this. I'm going to move this over here. I've got a frame to work with. Just remember you can switch off your line weight so you get much clearer reference, and I'm simply going to rotate this by 45 degrees. Okay, so you can see you can either 45, it'll snap on 45, that's fine. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 panels. So here you're just going to simply grab that. You're going to use the mirror tool by line. You're going to select this point over here. We do that, and now what you do is we grab both again. Now it'll speed up. Okay, so here we just have to do this one more time. Okay, and you see it's starting to work quite neatly, and then we'll just do it one more time. You can make a complex model to do this, but it's good to know how to draft sometimes because there are situations when you need to draft. So mirror, and I'll grab that and then mirror that along again. Okay, so there we've got our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 panel door. Okay, so that's sliding that direction, and I can just say simply finish. Now what you have is a nice symbol of how this door would slide along this track. So I have made a slight little error there, so let's just go back in here, edit group, but it's nice because it's a group. We can start get rid of that line. Okay, and then I'm simply gonna move that to there. Okay, sometimes we'll show the stacking against you, especially if there's like a object that it might hit, or if there's a reveal or a wall that will return. Sometimes you'll need to know that dimension, but that's fine for now. That's enough information that we understand that's a door, and we've got the sliding arrows telling us it's going in that direction. We don't mind if these things overhang. Okay, so that's perfect. So that's enough information. Just remember with a group, you want to change the origin. So put it in a location that works well for you. That will work. Okay, what's neat now is if I go to my right at the bottom in my project browser, you will find those detail groups live in here, so you can simply drag and drop them in. Okay, so that's good. Alright, so we've got stairs going up. Alright, we've got some parking. We've got a gate. We'll start bringing some annotation now. We'll quickly do that as well. But as far as this goes, this is starting to work well. Yes, we've got some plaster line, but that's fine. Okay, that's looking good. If I switch my line weights back on, you can see the plan's actually starting to look quite complete. Okay, so we can just give this arbitrary names going forward. Now there's two ways. Let's start with the naming of rooms, for example. There is a tool in Revit that will allow you to name spaces and volumes. Okay, and for example, this lift shaft, we can make the lift shaft go right to the top, but you can also do this just by using general annotation as well. So you can literally use the text tool. But let's have a look how this room tool works. So it's a slight introduction on how this works. So all you're going to do is you're going to go to room, and what Revit will do, you'll notice that it'll actually start picking up this room automatically. Okay, there are differences, but it's picking up the line on the wall. Technically the area will go to the shop front, but technically this will work well for me. Okay, so that's great. I'm going to drop that in, and you can see, hey, it's giving me a room number and everything. So I don't like these room tags that come with Revit. I remake these, but part of this tutorial I'm going to show you how to edit the ones that come within the family. Sometimes you can go and see, you can change, they come with options, so you can use that option all the time. You see you can jump between metric, name only. So for this instance, you can probably just go with the metric option. That actually works pretty well. Okay, it gives you a room name, but if you want the numbers, there are ways to do this. So let's just go and have a look how these room tags work very quickly. With rooms, just remember, sometimes a room will lose, if you drop a room in no man's land, it will be on your schedule, but you won't be able to find them. A quick way to find rooms is if you go to, okay, I've got visibility graphics, I've got a view template override for them. I'm just going to say none for now, just to explain what's going on. VG, just remember, you'll need to, if you're using a view template, you might have to change it from time to time and keep it updated. But if I go to rooms, all that you need to know is that they have a reference that you can switch on, so you can see, and you can see where all the rooms are. Okay, so it will have a reference line on how these rooms work. Okay, so let's just get rid of that quickly, but very quick. This is when you start leveraging the power of Revit, and you can start using these. Okay, off, done. Okay, now let's just go and have a quick look and see how these work. Okay, so just like we did with that, our viewport label, these work exactly the same way, but these are designed to work with rooms. Just as a general rule of thumb and a guide, if you go to the family categories and parameters section, it will tell you what this is going to work with. So it's going to work with rooms. It's a specific tag for rooms. Okay, so just bear that in mind. What I tend to do is I like to combine the number with the reception generally, and I'll get rid of the square feet. We don't need that parameter. Okay, then all I do is I just edit these labels. Okay, so this is typically, I change this to 0.5, I change this to 2, this will be Century Gothic, and that'll be 0.8. Okay, very quick, done. Just remember, I'm going to rename that because that's 2 millimeters. You can make it 2.5. That's totally up to you. Yeah, I think I'll leave it at 2 because a lot of our notes will be at 2. We'll have a hierarchy of text that we'll use a bit later on. Okay, I know that sometimes the council specifies 2.5, but we've just found when we print these drawings, they read really well at these scales, and it gives you enough space to add a lot of annotation. Okay, that's great. Just rename that maybe to 2 mil, just so that we can keep the conventions going. That's transparent. Press OK. This one I'm going to edit as well. This will be so let's say rename. Let's make it 3 or 3.5. Okay, that will be 0.5. That will be 3. That will be Century Gothic. That will be 0.8. Okay, great. Apply. In this instance, I'll leave the room number on its own. Okay, and I might just make that 2 as well. here you can leave that label in the front, and just with these they've got parameters that they've assigned for visibility graphics. So if I go to that, you'll see it's got a switch that it will be visible in certain instances. I'm going to remove that because I want my area visible. Actually no, I'll leave it because we might leverage this later on. So that's, well, I'll explain that now. Okay, so that will be room area, and I'm going to get rid of that imperial because we don't need that, and I'll leave the room number as well. Okay, just with the labels, remember you can add prefixes if you want to, so you can say RM, but I'll leave it exactly as it is for now. Okay, so that will work fine. I can bump that up a bit. Just remember, if the names get quite long, you might have to increase the width of these. You'll see that it will start wrapping the text, so just bear that in mind. But otherwise, that actually works pretty well. Okay, you can also, maybe here we can say, just to make this work pretty well and just try it out, we can say area. Okay. My apologies, I was correct. Area, space. Okay, yeah, it's done exactly what I thought it would do. Okay, so we'll leave it like that. All right, that's good, that's good. And now I'm just going to go and remove some of the parameters I don't need. So I don't need this imperial, so remove that parameter. We'll discuss how this works in more in depth. So here I'm going to say name and number, and I'm going to remove that. I'm going to remove that one, name and number. I'm going to say name and number and name only. The rest I'm going to, that's how I'll leave. Yeah, so name only. Yeah, so that one I can also leave. Okay, so this one will have the room number and name only. Okay, so that's important. Those work well. Press apply. Okay, press OK, and you're going to say load into project, and I'm not going to override that. You can save this as a separate, so you're just going to say override existing parameters. Okay, don't save for now. Don't save. I'm going to press cancel. So here I'm just going to call this workshop because technically that's what I envisage. This is going to be like a workshop. So if you tab until you select the room, you can just simply call this workshop or garage. That's totally up to you. But I would see this as a workshop / storeroom. Okay, so workshop. Okay, that works well. Okay, so now we've got a room that will, and it's got a label. But by all means you can use the text tool, and you can, so I'll do that for the lift. I'm not going to put so here I'm just going to go to annotate, and I'm going to go and add some text, and I'll just make this, and I'll call this lift. Okay, and put that in. You just need to change the tab until you select the text, and this I will change to 3 mil as well. Okay, and put this in the middle of the lift. Okay, you got options. You can use that will blank out, but I'll use the 3.5 Century Gothic. Okay, that works well. Let me just adjust this one as well. Let me just edit this family and make that 3.5, just so that we're consistent. What's nice about doing this way, if you load this into the, by using rooms, if you cut a section, you'll be able to tag those rooms in the section as well. So just remember that. Load into project, override existing. Okay, that's looking good. Workshop. Okay, and then here we can just add I can just move this. We can make that a room as well. So let me do that as well. If you're going to make a room here, because there's an opening here, so watch what will happen if I go to room and I make a room. So architecture room. And if I try and close, you see it won't enclose. If you drop it, it'll give an error, but now you don't know where that room is, so you'll have to use that VG, switch that on. But I know how to work around that. So what you need to do here is you'll need to add a room separator line. So in this, say I'm going to take a room separator line from there to there. Okay, yes, I know it's going to give me an error because sometimes it will consider a wall as being room binding, but that's fine. Now if I grab my room, look what will happen. Okay, so in that I can just call it parking. So tab until you select the room. Okay, that will be 2. It's important to keep a number, especially on commercial buildings. We try and keep a number of all our rooms. Okay, there's another room in the project that I need to, so I've dropped maybe 2 areas in here, so let's just see why that's happening. Just a very, if that does happen, it won't allow you to change, just means that there's a room already. and we can just go to room schedules. There's one already created, so you can simply select that room and say delete. Yes. Okay. Now you can just simply go back into here and you can change that to 2. Okay, and that's important. You can't have duplicates. Very important. Okay, and that will just be a normal number and name. Sorry, number and metric, name and metric. I'll actually rename that. Okay, so where do we go and manage these things? If you go to annotation, can we just find what the family's name is? So this is annotate room medium. Okay, so you're going to go and find that annotate medium family here very quickly, and we can quickly rename it. There we go. So I'm going to say rename. I'm just going to call this room, and then I'm going to expand that. I'm just going to say I want name only maybe, and I want number with metric, and that I'm going to get rid of remove that. Okay, there's one in the instance already that's got that value, so why? Okay, let me just say okay, I'll just go in here, edit type. Let me just see. Oh, that's been worked, that's used already, so it's brought a lot of this stuff in. Okay, no, that's fine. I'll just stick with these two, because what it should allow us to do, it should allow us to delete the ones that are not in use. So currently they're saying it's in use. Okay, you can go and say select all in project, and you can delete them. So that one's in use, so number with metric. Okay, but technically that's not correct, so I'm just going to say delete all instances for now. Okay, so I'm going to select all instance project and I'm going to delete it. Okay, then it'll allow me to delete this. Okay, it should have, that's very strange. Should allow me to do that. Interesting. Let me just go into here and edit. Let me just see why. Okay, so let's get rid of that one for now. So number and both areas, so let's just get rid of that. So let's say number in both areas, delete that. Number with metric, so it's going to give us, so that's incorrect, so I'm just going to get rid of that as well. So what I'm going to say is rename, so I'm going to just say, sorry, not new, I'm going to say rename. So I'm just going to say name and area. Name and area, press OK. So here it's not going to have, it's just going to have area. Okay, and then I'll make another one new. I'll just call this name. So it'll just be the name, it won't have a number. There are instances when you want to do that, so that'll be off as well. So you will have name and area, and then here we can just rename that and call it all. Okay, and we'll do this for the rest of the project, and you'll see how quick that will go. Okay, that's good. Load into project, and I'm just going to load it in, and I'm going to say overwrite. Okay, so now what's cool about having these tags, it means that if I went to go to annotate and I go tag all, so if I go tag all, it's going to ask me what property, room tags, it's going to ask me what one I want to use. Here I'm just going to say name and area. Okay, so I want to use my name and area, that's all. Press apply, press OK, and voila, it will number everything for me. Okay, so that's working well. Okay, I did see that if I go back to area tags, that it's brought in a whole lot of these other ones. It should allow me to start deleting that. That's very strange. Okay, I've got a feeling that these have been used somewhere else in this project. So let me just see if I can say select all instances in project, delete. Let me just see if that will allow me to delete it now. No. Okay, that's okay. What you can do is you just delete the whole family and you bring it back in. Okay, so that's an option. So I just delete that. Yes, press OK. Yes, it'll delete them all. Go back to this view, and now you just simply load this back and just make sure that this preserved all of that. Yep, and then just go load into project. Yep. Okay. Voila, voila, done. Okay, sorted. Now it's quite a clean family. And you can see we've just got the ones that we want. Okay, great. So we've done most of the room naming now, parking. So now it's just general labels. We've got a site plan that we can go and get some additional information off. So let's just quickly have a look at that. So let's just go to, so what we're going to go and do now is go to our site. I'm going to grab some of these notes, okay? Because here we've done a lot of the note work already. And I'm going to grab some of the plumbing information. So let's grab this information while we're at it. Yeah, I can grab that as well. It's a fold region. I can grab that information as well. Grab the manhole. Grab the text as well. Okay, that's good. And let's grab that as well. Okay, I don't need anything else. And I'll just simply grab that line as well. Okay, good. Copy. Basement. And we're going to go and say paste the line to current view. Okay. So that's neat. It's brought in all my sliding gates. It's going to bring in my sewer information. So we'll need to show how this works. Okay, we might have a situation where we've got structure going underneath here, but I'm going to explain what we'll do here. I'm actually going to bring my services down here, and then they'll be in the floor slab with access. I'll make them run to a point over here and then out. Okay. All right. So part of our S2P, we did make a bit of a call, but that's fine. Okay, so let's just put that there. I've got that as a inspection eye, so I'll put that there. Okay, then we can start adding more of our services, but we'll tackle that a bit later. And now I've got a paving line. Okay, here we've got a gate, so they'll probably cast a bit of concrete there just to. Okay, then what we probably also need to do is indicate a cage around this area over here. And I'm just going to use a dashed line for this because typically it might be quite a mesh fence that will be located around where this gate will run. Okay, so that's important. So let's just have a look at doing that quickly. Detail line work. I'm just going to go and find a hidden bit of line work. So let's just go and see what we have at our disposal. So what we could do, go down here and we could say hidden lines. So here we could and pull that back to there. Okay, I might want to increase that if I want to use the hidden lines a bit more. So in that instance, very quickly I can just simply go to manage very quickly, additional settings, line styles, and you're going to go and find the hidden line right at the end. Just use the on your keyboard, it'll jump right down to the bottom. Okay, hidden lines, and we're going to change that to hidden 100. It'll read a lot better. Okay. Yeah, let me just make sure that applied. Sometimes you got to press apply. Let me just go and check that. Line styles, I'll leave it like that because it's a symbolic bit of line work. Okay. Yeah, so now that will work. You can get smaller ones as well. I'll leave it like that. That's good. Okay. Okay, so that's just telling me that this is going to be a protected area so that somebody can't get stuck there, or yeah. So you're just trying to protect this area. It might have to be accessible so that somebody could work on the gate or something. Okay, so this might have to have a panel that comes off, but that's something that we can discuss later. Okay. All right, so you can see our plan is starting to come together quite nicely. So if we go to our sheets now you can see I'm providing enough space. Now we're just going to start adding a whole lot of annotations, and then our basement plan is done. Okay. So let's just go back to the view. Okay, now what we can also do, this is quite neat, you can start using your levels. So if we need to add some spot levels and spot elevation, so here you can see if I use this, I've got a whole lot of them set up if I use the plan option. But you can switch those off. There's a lot of ways that you can use these. Okay, I'm going to say no symbol for now. I'll explain why. I'm going to call it relative. Let me just go and I'm going to symbol project. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, it will provide a leader, but you can switch that leader off. I'll explain that now. So here you can just simply switch off leader and you can switch off the shoulder. And we're going to use this as a floor level for now. Okay, so I'm going to go and edit type. So here we just might have to make some adjustments, but this is going to survey. It's going to use my survey point because remember we've set up our survey point. And what's neat is we can go and change this to use meters, so we can use the above So you've got two options. You can either use relative, so basement 0, the floor above will be higher. All that you're trying to determine here is change of level. Okay. So in this case, I'm going to use these levels because this is a lot of structural concrete work, and we'll have an engineer that will give us those levels. So that's the best way to do it. So you know that you and the engineer are working together. Okay. All right, 2 decimal places, and that will work well with factor 0.8. Okay, here we're going to change the text size to, okay, Century Gothic, so it'll look just like our other text. Okay, and here we can just say rename, and we can call this survey. We're not going to use the project, so we're going to say, I'll just use an abbreviation. Okay, you can add prefixes and that, but that's fine. I'm going to press apply, press OK. Okay, excellent. So that works well. I think there's an option to draw a border around this as well, if I remember correctly. Let me just I know sometimes these objects can't do that. It's underlined. Some of them allow you to draw a border. Okay, no, this won't work, but we can just use some detail line work that we'll use with these. Okay. Now what's neat is, well, now we've got that value in play, we can see there's a prefix and there's a suffix. So here you can just say TOC. You just do this once. Top of concrete, done. Okay. So that's our level above. Okay, so that's in meters. Then just to make it look really good, M, done. Okay. So we're giving ourselves some levels, but this is going to be a 1 level, but technically this will fall. We might have to use some arrows. One thing to bear in mind as well, you're going to have to switch off that room separator line, because technically it doesn't print, but what I like to do is I like to switch them off just because it just makes the plan read a lot better. So you're going to go to model category, you're going to press this arrow key, and you go to room separator lines, and I'm just going to switch it off. Okay, you can use your other construction view to go and manage those objects. Okay. So let's just close that. I don't need that. Just say no. Okay. Right. So we've got a basement plan. Now we're going to start adding some tanking details, some fill. So when you cut through a basement, there is going to be an area fill. So there's some information that I'm going to have to just copy. But this is purely drafting. Okay. So a lot of this is drafting, and we'll start adding more of this information once I've pulled down from the ground floor where the services terminate. I'll add more. So I'll jump back to this plan and add some more information. But you can see this is purely line work, detail line work. Okay, so to add this information is fairly straightforward and easy. Okay, so to do this won't take long. I'm just going to go upstairs quickly in the first floor, and I'm going to go the ground floor, and I'm going to add a series of dimensions and some annotations, basic annotation, add some rooms, and then we'll recap shortly. Okay, so I've gone and completed dimensioning the ground floor. Okay, there's some information that I did switch off for now, just so that I could dimension a bit better. So little things like this, we've got these clashes. Try and avoid those clashes. Okay, so try and pull that out a bit. Just make sure that these are legible. You can pull this to the side. Okay, small things like that. You don't want these conflicts to occur. Okay. Here we've got our boundary line. We've got our services. So this bit of text we can pull in a bit. So let's grab that text. Now I can see the line work needs to be shifted out a bit. So let's just grab this line work. Just to let you know, if you notice that these bits of line work were quite extended because it's actually hiding a lot of the information. You can go and trim this, but it's not required at this point. You can go and refine this stuff later on to make it work with your plan. So there's a lot of this information that is here. It is visible, but we're not wanting to see it right away. Okay. One thing to bear in mind, if we go to our section, this is also very important that you need to consider. So let's switch that back on, switch it off. You'll notice that my plan has a step, and sometimes it won't look correct, okay, on the plan. So what you need to do, this is very important, you'll need to go and say, you'll need to change your plan region. Okay, I've got this, so let me just remove this template for the time being and explain what's going on. Okay, so what you'll need to do in this view range, here you'll need to tell it Because currently it does look correct, but if something's not looking correct, you might have to say the view depth will need to be a lot deeper. So this view depth might have to be minus 755. So you actually see, and you can see now my shop front is showing a bit better. Okay, so that's very important. If you've got steps in the slab, you must make adjustments to do so. Or you're going to go to view and you're going to have a plan region, and then what you'll do is you'll select the zone just like this, and then you can go and apply a different view range. So here I could say, I could leave it like that and say finish, and then technically I could just leave my view range as it was at 0. 0. So this does take a bit of getting your head around. Okay, so let's make it 0. But just remember, this will show you what's going on. Press OK. Okay, now this is doing the job for me. Okay, so here you can see I can get it quite tight, and you'll see it'll still read correctly. Makes no difference. Okay, depends on how the step does happen. So sometimes you might have to fine tune this information. So let's just pull it back into the wall. That's good enough for now. Okay, so just bear that in mind. It leaves a green line to warn you that there is a plan region in this area currently. So just remember that. Okay, so that's all looking good. Okay, my shop fronts are looking correct. Okay, I've got my entrances correct. I've got all my room labels. I've got some dimensions. So we just probably need to add a couple more internal dimensions over here. Okay, this you could also take to over here. Likewise, but we've picked those up there. That will work. We can dimension that. Here we might need an extra dimension. That's important, and here we've picked up that opening. Okay. All right. Other little things, we can switch off the hand railings maybe. So let's just hide those. So select hide category, and then we can just use some dimensions here. Okay. You just want the stair run, how wide that is. Okay, you can take that back in. Yeah, just avoid clashes. The center line's okay, then you can say reset. Okay, right, so we've copied in some stuff from the site plan, and you can see this is coming together. Now we just have to add some additional notes and information. Okay, this is line work beneath, so technically we can start hiding this information. That's where the driveway comes in. Okay, but that is a model line, and technically it's on the ground floor, so we are going to see bits of it, but we can I'll explain what we can do a bit later on to make that disappear. Okay, we can use a annotate, we can use a mask region to get rid of that. But we've got an opening here. We can have a whole lot of planting, but in essence it's just a big outdoor entertainment area, so it's like a roof garden of sorts. So I'm just going to put a label here. Okay, and I'm just going to call this roof garden. I'm not going to add a lot of detail here because I'll explain once we get into this area over here. What I might do is I'm going to introduce some 2D furniture that I'm going to use an AutoCAD file to make some basic detail items. Okay, we've got, and I'm not going to specify, I'm just going to give it a label. Okay, now very important, go to your basement. What we are going to do is going to grab this level, these levels that we've copied that. Okay, it's just indicating a change in level. That's important. If there's a big change in level, and you'll see this will start working really well now on our ground floor. You're going to see this is going to start changing. Top of concrete, copy. We do put these in squares sometimes, but we find with our engineers they do understand. Okay, now you can see these starting. That's a change of level between there and there. There's a change of level of about 85 mil. Okay, copy that. Now there's going to be another change in level. This is why we do. That's why we're going to add these types of annotation. Okay, so let's just move this to the center of the room more or less. Okay, we've got some stairs. We'll put some additional notes there. We'll start counting the stairs going up. Okay, but you can see this is working quite well. I'm just going to add. So what's neat is this is very neat. So we're going to grab our group now. Group, remember, detail items, everything that's modeled, that's annotated, and which is a detail item, will be in the detail group section. If it's model items, so like model lines, it will be in this other section. Okay, so I'm going to grab this door. I'm going to move it over here. Just remember, don't just go and edit now because it will change downstairs. You need to go edit type, duplicate. I'm going to call this G1. Sorry, that other one should have been basement. Okay, but that's fine. G1 or D1, we can do that. Now what I'm going to do is move this, and you'll start seeing this will work really well now. And then all I have to do here very quickly is just go back into my line weight section, click this door, and I can go and say edit group. Okay, and then we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So technically that's what we're going to have. Okay, so we might have to recreate this because our door width won't be exactly the same, but let's have a quick look and see what that width is. Let me just quickly do that. DI. From there, 810. Okay, this is purely symbolic. So here you can grab that guy, 810, and our doors are almost exactly the same. I'm going to grab that guy, delete that. So all I'm going to do quickly is delete this information, grab that and move that. So making these detail items don't take long. Okay, mirror, grab that, mirror, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 panels here, and this one we can. Done. Got our door, sliding stacking door. Purely symbolic. We've got a lift, so we can actually just go to our basement. So that's what's nice now. We can keep copying the stuff up and down, up and down. Okay, Control C. Okay. Ground floor. Control V. We can just place in the same place. Okay. It'll take a bit of time getting used to how to dimension in that, so just be patient. Here, for example, I forgot to dimension that wall, for example. Oops. So that wall. Okay, let's do that again. So that's going to dimension that wall. And the issue that we're having here is let's dimension the external face. So I must tab and get that face. Important. Because that was a finished floor level, because there's plaster there. Okay. That's good, that's good. That's good. This is going to be a big water tank for now. So this I'll put some hatching in and put some tanking in, but later on. But now I just want to go to my ground floor. But you can see this plan has actually come together quite nicely. We just need to label the doors. We've picked up this column here. We will label that now. We'll make sure that we pick up that information. But that's good. We've got some information. We've got good level information, and it looks quite neat. So let's just go and have a look at our plan quickly. Okay, let's go to views here. Okay, and let's just see if everything's starting to fit. And you can see this is actually working really well. So I can nudge that a bit, and yeah, we've got good clearance. We can pull those a bit tighter into the plan maybe, but you can see this is reading well. Okay, we might have to move some of the text to make that work, and I'll have to label the fire hydrant, but you can see straight away we've got some nice comprehensive plans taking shape. Okay, and then we'll number the risers, that kind of thing. Okay.